All right, so we just dealt with adding and subtracting. That was easy. That was like so simple. We got this like bam, we're good. So now let's go to multiplication, and really we don't have to worry about the division part because that's not what they want you guys to be familiar with or actually go through when it comes to the ACT. So with that, we're not going to worry about the division part. We're just going to do the multiplication and get out of here. All right. So the product of the following, and we know product means multiplication. Multiplication, we know that means product. All right, so if we have a product here, that means that we're going to multiply these out. So that means if we have one term outside and we have two terms on the inside, so that was like a binomial type thing, we're going to have to distribute first. So with this, we're going to use the distributive property. We're going to distribute that term, the negative 2.5i, to both terms. So multiply this and multiply this. So I'm going to write that out so we can see it really quick. And you also can do that in your head if you remember how to, if you can. And that's perfectly fine. That put the... There we go. That's what I did. All right, so we took the negative that was both with negative 2.5i and gave it to both terms. All right, so if we multiply these two together, the first part, that gives us negative 20i. 20, not 26, but negative 20i. If we multiply the second portion here, that would give us 22.5i squared. And that's a positive, so we'll put an addition sign there. And with that, if you need to go ahead and just get a calculator and multiply that together, and realize again, only thing we multiplied was the numbers itself. We didn't actually multiply the I with it, we just kept the I. So technically we did multiply, but we just left I there to make it easier, simpler to work with. Same thing here, we multiplied that negative 2.5 times negative 9, and that gave us the I. That gave us the 22.5. But then if we multiply I times I, that gives us the I squared. So I times I is I squared. Just like x times x is x squared, I times I is I squared. All right, so again, all we did was just multiply. All we did was just multiply there. All right, cool. Now, the other part is, again, like I said from the get-go, beginning of this, we cannot just leave I squared just I squared. We have to change it over. And if you remember back from the beginning of it, we said that I was the square root of negative 1. We said I squared was negative 1. So with that, we have to change I squared over to negative 1 and then simplify it down. And if you remember, I actually said that we have to do that because I knew it was coming up. This is where we are now. All right, so we're going to keep this first term of negative 20i. And for I squared is what we're going to change over. Only I squared. Only I squared. So I squared equals negative 1. And so instead of us writing I squared right here, we're going to change it over to negative 1 right there. All right, and I'm going to write this down. We just simplified using the definition of I squared. So that's all we did was just use the definition of I squared there and change it over. And now we just go ahead and simplify it down. And that would give us negative 20i minus 22.5. All right. And then the very last thing is, if you remember back, we've never written anything with the bi in the front. We always had the a first, and then we had the bi at second. And if you look at it, this is your a, this is your bi, So it means we need to flip it around so that it's in the right order. So it means we just have to do it around as A plus BI, which means negative 22.5 minus 20I. And you know what? That's it. We just wrote that in order, in the correct order. Done. That's the product. All right, so we have one more that we're going to do, and then we are done, guys.